Hello everyone, my name is Satyam Raha. In this video, let's talk about constructors in Java. So constructors are basically used to build objects of a class. What do I mean by that? Let's say for example, I have a class named A. Okay, so in this class, say I have two variables, say int I and j. Okay, now let's instantiate this class. Let's say I am creating an object a equals to new a, right? This is how we instantiate an object. So if I want to say have some method called void display, and inside this say I want to print the values of I plus j. For example, I want the summation of I and j. Now how can I call? I first have to assign the values of I, say 9, and obj dot j equals to say 10. Now if I call obj dot display, if I run this code, it works fine, it prints 9 10. So the summation of the two values I and j, this works fine, right? But what is happening behind the scene? This line is used to create an object of class A, right? This is created in the heap memory. So you see, after this is created, this is empty, right? After creating this object, this is an empty object. This is filled only when I assign the values of I and j using the object, right? This is how I am initializing the values, the instance variables I and j, isn't it? So after that I'm calling the display function. This is fine, but I want is that I want to create or instantiate the instance variables as soon as the object is created. How can I do that? So see, by default every class comes with a default constructor. You may not see it here, but it is provided by the compiler. Okay, so it looks like this. Done. So basically this is the default constructor which is provided by the compiler. Okay, we need not provide it, the compiler provides this default constructor. What is happening behind the scene is, when this line is executed, okay, when this line is executed, a obj equal to new a, when object is instantiated, what happens is this method is basically called with this new a. Basically it calls this method. Okay, say for example, let me define the default constructor. Let's say I want to print something just to check the behavior of this in constructor. Okay, let's run this code now. What do you think? What will be printed? I have not called this method, right? I have not called this method, but still this is something which will get called. Let's execute this. See, first in constructor is printed. How is it getting printed? Basically when you are creating the object, what is the flow of this program? First this class is loaded, this class is loaded, then public class final demo, this class is being loaded, and since it has the void main, it will be called, isn't it? Now the next line is obj equal to new a. This is object instantiation. When this is executed, what happens behind the scene is the default constructor which is provided by the compiler. Here in this case I am providing it, I am defining it explicitly, but if I did not do it, the compiler would have provided it, okay, implicitly. But here since I'm explicitly defining it, what is happening is behind the scene this method is called, and this is a special method. Remember, this is a special method. This is called a constructor. Why? Because you see the class name and the method name is same here. Okay, so you are allowed to do this. The class name and the method name is same, and such a method is called a constructor. You cannot write it like this void a. You cannot do it. What will happen? See, there is a warning. This method has a constructor name, because in Java constructor names are always same as the class name, and those constructors should not have any return type. Always remember this, it should not have any return type. This is an error. So this is the requirement. Constructors will be called first when a object is instantiated. Okay, this constructor will be called. Now you see, that is why in constructor is printed first, because this line calls the constructor and the object is built. After that only obj.i is instantiated, obj.j is instantiated, then the display is being called, right? So this is how the program flow is happening. Now why is this constructor used? By default it is used for building the object, but why do we need to explicitly define it? Maybe in cases where I need to instantiate the instance variables right before I have, right when I am actually creating the object. Let's say I have these two variables, instance variables, and I want to instantiate these. Say I have int a comma int b. Okay, so I want to say I equals to a and j equals to b. Okay, and here I can right away send 9 comma 10. I need not do it in other lines. This will work fine. What is happening behind the scene is, when this object is instantiated, right then what will happen, this constructor will be called by default. We need not call it. Okay, it will be called automatically. So when it is called, what will happen, this particular constructor method will be called and this work will be done. What will happen, 9 and 10 is passed. So here from this 9 and 10, these are the local variables a and b, and I and j are the instance variables. So I and j will be instantiated right away. Now if we print display, which prints the value of I and j, what will happen, if I run this code, it will print 19. So this is how a constructor is used. Okay, so we can have any number of constructors depending on a concept of constructor overloading. We'll see that in the next video. For this video, I think the concept of constructor is understood. Hope you like this video. Thank you. See you in the next video.